Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX, and it's Tuesday. So that means I'm here and you're here also, or you're watching it later. And this is my Hello I-10 with the helicopters in joke. Welcome. This is Q&A AMA, and this is when I usually do live mentoring and coaching for any questions that you have. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat, though note your name will come up, so please don't say crap about your boss. If you want to say crap about your boss, please follow other side. The link, my new URL shortener dcx.to, will take you to all the things. My new courses, coaching, events calendar, how to ask a question here, etc. So please use the thing. We do have 3 questions that came in ahead of time, so yours will be next. And of course, as always, thank you to past, present, and future Patreon members. We've got Patreon also at the free level, so please just freaking join. Doesn't have to be the paid level. Some people you see here have already upgraded or downgraded. People are moving all around as situations change. I'm just happy to see people in the Patreon, so please come and join at patreon.com/cxcc. And we have a super special guest. Friends and fans of the show have as a compound subject, have seen this person before and will be as thrilled as I am to see him again. John N.A. Brown. John, tell us, in case the fine people don't recognize you with your super cool hippie hair, remind us who you are.
Well, I'm Dr. John N.A. Brown. Um,
Maresto humile.
and I'm, what can I say? I should have said PhD, Doctor de Ricerche. That's what I should have said. Anyhow, I'm a guy who does stuff. I've been in and out of UX for a couple of decades. I've worked in Silicon Valley as a consultant with companies like Google and Amazon, Facebook and LinkedIn. And I'm currently a lecturer at Robert Gordon University in Scotland, in Aberdeen, Scotland.
He moved to
That's
Scotland,
me.
everybody, since we last saw him. Amazing. Here's to all of the people leaving certain countries and entering certain other continents. I don't have a good graphic for that,
Some,
so a virtual toast.
with
Uh,
blue milk from the Star Wars universe.
yeah, seriously, what are you drinking? I want to know what I-10's drinking. I am up to dinner protein shake. Yes, be very
Uh,
jealous.
Mine is a spirulina smoothie
Okay,
because some
so
things in California stick with you when you leave.
hey, Violet's here. I-10's at doing Coke Zero. All right, we got Violet dialing in from I believe Toronto, and I-10 in beautiful I want to say Sweden, Gothenburg. Just trying to remember where everybody is, but I could be wrong. Alrighty, let's take a look at some of the questions that came in ahead of time. And if you have a question, please ask it. We want to answer it. So, Gothenburg, thank you. I've spent too much time in the Netherlands recently. I'm turning everything into Dutch. Um, Alrighty. So our first question, and these came in anonymously. I don't know who asked them. I get the feeling all 3 questions were from the same person because they all started kindly with, "Hi, Debbie." Sheeby USA. Hi, everybody. Oh, it's Ana Lucia using an old account on her phone. Okay. Hello, Ana Lucia, in Portugal. Okay. So the question says, "Hi, Debbie. Do you have any slides or examples?" And we'll ask John something like this, of how to show quant and qual data together for a more impactful research results session with key stakeholders. John, any advice there on qual and quant for impact?
Sure. For impact, I almost never use quant or qual alone. The two of them help define the problem, and the two of them help define possible answers. So, one of the things that I'm big on doing is I like to go to the key stakeholders who want the research done and do a qualitative interview with them first to help establish where the the problem comes from, how they identified what the problem is, and then work from there to find out who informed them of the issues they think are problematic and interview them. And all the way back down to whichever source the issue originally came to the company, from which the issue originally came to the company. By doing that, I get to have qualitative interactions with all of these people and get their buy-in to my methodology. I also let them see that there is importance in recording information and thus quantifying it. So let me see, the best qualitative data you can possibly collect about the experience that has been designed is whether or not anyone has tried to use it. That's a simple quantitative measure. Without that measure in place, there's no point evaluating how well it can be used. And I could give lots of examples of cases where I've been hired to try and figure out exactly how to improve the finite workings of something. And they have this big qualitative research plan in mind. But then you go in and take a look at it, and no one is landing on the page. So there's hardly any reason. So you have to look at a bit of quantitative data to see the value of the qualitative, and the qualitative will help you see whether or not you're looking in the right place for quantitative. That would be my take on it.
Delicious, delicious. I don't always do a lot of quant, but my answer here would be there's a parallel with John's, which is before we even started our research and while we're planning it, did we learn what our teammates and stakeholders or clients need to learn to be successful in whatever tasks they're trying to accomplish? What are we trying to find out for them and why? Obviously, we have episode 196 about the knowledge quadrant exercise that you can run. But what do we know about what people are trying to learn? How will they determine that our research study was a success? And how do they need that information? So sometimes people say, oh, I want lots of quotes, or I want some video clips, or give me some statistics. I want to know numbers. What percentage of people hated the new layout? So to me, I want to give people the qual and quant that answers their questions in the way that makes sense to them. If I only gave them numbers and they were really hoping for quotes or video clips or things like that, then I might have done great research, but I'm not reporting or delivering it as well as I could. And I think we just did a previous show on research reports. So I would say go to YouTube and write DeltaCX research reports. See if that one comes up. I don't remember the episode number offhand, but I should get the next question ready.
Okay, while you're getting that ready, Debbie, let me
Yes,
jump in for one more comment on this
please.
first one. The reason that I tend not to do qual or quant on their own is because I think the division is a mistake. And if my clients really want it, then I'll do that for them. Recently, I was hired by the graduate school at the university here to teach a course in an introduction to quantitative statistics to the PhD candidates from all the different branches of the university, all the different schools, as they say in the UK. And people are terrified of quant if they don't understand it. People who really deeply understand quant are terrified of qual. And I think this division is just one of those things that humans do really well in ignorance. We love being really specific about things we don't understand so that we can cut most of it away. And I think it's very important to explain to people that problems don't come in just one flavor unless you're willing to ignore most of the problem. That would be my take.
Totally fair. The next question is definitely more directed at me, so I apologize. And Ana Lucia says, on that note, I'm wondering why some companies specify they want quant UXR instead of leaving the method up to the researcher. Yeah, some companies do split out those jobs separately. You're the qual researcher, you're the quant researcher. You hope those two people work together. But yeah, good question.
Yeah, in my experience, it's often because the people who have created the position that needs to be filled, the people who've decided that there's a role here that we need to fill, are trying to solve very specific problems. So maybe they've been told that there's a bounce rate problem. maybe they've been told that there's a performance issue with some aspect of a device. They see it as a question for hard numbers, and they're worried that they're going to get a designer who spent 4 years becoming a great designer and 1 year becoming a qualitative researcher and half an hour in a quant workshop. So they want to be sure that they've got someone who can actually do the kind of statistical programming or statistical interpretation of the programming based data that their engineers know how to extract. Methods anyway, because they were trained as computer scientists or because they were trained as engineers or because they were trained in-house by people who didn't understand proper statistical methodology. So very often, I used to have fun with it, applying for jobs where they said they wanted mixed quant and qual, or where they said they wanted quant only or qual only. I used to have fun with asking the people, once you get to the right level of interview, well, could you explain to me what exactly you consider quant? And it's lovely to watch them tripping over their tongues.
I used to do that when people would go like, and do you do design thinking? And knowing that there's 9,000 definitions of design thinking, I would say, well, how do you define design thinking? They
Yeah,
didn't even have a definition of it. They would be like, "Well, what's your definition of it?" And what am I going to say? I asked you first. They're hoping I'll rescue them from that conversation. But it's like, if you're going to ask me
right.
that, you should at least have some idea of what you think it is. So,
Please, please. And if the people performing whatever level of interview that is, if they don't have that information at their fingertips, then there's a problem in the entire interviewing process. I, I'm a tiny way
how are
into
they
a
going
book I
to
started writing
assess?
a few years ago.
I was
Exactly,
just going to say, how are they
exactly.
going to assess if I've given a good answer or not when they don't have a definition of design thinking?
Yeah, they can't. They can't possibly. So they can't do follow up questions that have any meaning. They can't do follow up interactions that have any meaning in real time. Now, they might say, oh, but we've got an in house expert who's going to watch the interview on tape later on. Yeah, lovely. Absolutely lovely. Have them sit in the interview, right? But then be sure that they're actually an in house expert. If you're trying to hire an in house expert, that's a different thing. And that should be explained at the outset.
Right. Right. So many things running through my head. I'm just going to go to the next question. This one was kind of for me, so I apologize there. Um, I recently saw that one of the UX boot camps, not sure if I should name them, I'll skip the name, started organizing real life UX meetups for UXers to catch up. They're based in the UK, so they're mainly doing it in the UK. It's quite expensive, but everybody pays for themselves and they book a restaurant, etc., and everything's paid. I thought it was a fun idea to meet people face to face. Do you think DeltaCX would do something like that in the future? So, funny story, I've already done that in London a year or so ago. That's where I have pictures of me and Dr. Nick sitting together, and I think we had 7 of you show up. 7 people showed up. We all went to a restaurant. I had originally suggested everybody pay for themselves, but the bill ended up so low, I just paid it. And yeah, so I'm open to having meetups, but um, every time I post to our Slack or Discord community about it and I say, hey, I'm coming through London, or I have a plane change and whatever, or I have a day here, who wants to get together? Crickets, crickets. I sat for an entire day in Gatwick Airport on May 28th. I had written to my community and I said, I have like a 9 hour layover. Who wants to get together? Nobody responded. Everyone said, oh, it's a work day for me. Oh, I can't get away for lunch. Oh, flights are expensive from Scandinavia, Debbie. Yeah, I don't expect I tend to fly to London to look at my face or anything else. And so, um, I've tried this and it just doesn't seem to happen because when I'm coming through, people are unavailable. Yeah, Iton says I need a visa for the UK. Brexit, Brexit. Yeah, I can't work in the UK, but I can drop by. So, yes, I get it. And London's not convenient for everybody. When I was in Copenhagen, I saw one person from our community, which was great. So I really do try to see any of you that I can when I'm passing through your town. When I've been in Dallas, I've seen Melanie Levy and some who am I forgetting right now? Who did I see last time in Dallas? Oh, Thomas Wilson. Yeah, so I am trying to see y'all, but sometimes the days just don't work. So please, if you are part of our community, dcx.to, join the Slack, join the Discord. That's usually where I post these things, either in the live events channel or in the general channel. And I don't have any travel plans as of now, so nothing cooking. I have a potential client in Barcelona. Anyone in Barcelona? No. I don't think we have a big community there, but I can only say I've tried. And without a job right now, as I am, I do not have the funds to say, hey, I'll just fly to London. We'll all have dinner. I will fly to London if you will buy me a plane ticket. So, sorry, I don't have the budget, but thank you for asking. All right, moving on
Yeah,
since that
if I may, Debbie,
yeah.
it would be different if you were running a training school in a specific geographic location and people were coming through that. Then you would all have this route of this specific geographic location. You're appealing to a worldwide audience. So that just automatically makes for a different kind of environment.
Yep, not much I can do. I tried to see someone from our community in the Netherlands when I was there in September. I do try to memorize where you all are. I do try to let you know I'm coming through, and it just usually doesn't work out. All right, moving on. So this one was to me, but we could say it's also for maybe John, since you are also a transplant. Aitan, yeah, keep listing the questions. I will copy and paste them to the list. So next question is, since you worked both in the US and Europe as a CX or UX professional, what would you say are the biggest differences between when it comes to how UX jobs are done?
Ooh, big question. Please tackle that first.
Ooh,
I'll ride your coattail.
yeah, that's my answer is a little bit of blah 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 because I haven't had a lot of European jobs. A lot of the Europe jobs end up being UK. I don't qualify for those as I cannot legally work in the UK. Cough cough Brexit. So I did work for a German company for 6 months. Um, but mostly I've been working for US companies remotely. So do I see a difference between how UX jobs are done between Europe and America? Um, Generally, broad brushstrokes, no, other than Europe jobs pay noticeably less. That's what stands
Um,
out to me. But the jobs, because all I think about all of you who come to these Tuesday sessions or the online communities or our new support group, which you can find dcx.to, and I hear what people talk about, and sometimes the troubles that someone's having at their job in Germany or Croatia are the same that someone's having in North Carolina or Milwaukee. So I'm not sure there's a huge difference other than the number on the paycheck. John, something to add?
yeah, yeah. The number on the paycheck is a sizable difference, especially if you're talking about Silicon Valley based jobs as the American standard. There is quite a variance across the country, but for the jobs that are offered internationally, the pay tends to be quite high. To get something like that, you'd probably have to be dealing with a Scandinavian country or with Switzerland. The salaries are also very high there. The rates are very high there, even if you're not salaried. Um, to me, the big difference I've found. over a couple of decades of bouncing around doing this, is that at least in the past, the level of mathematical education was better in Europe as a standard. So people coming out of secondary school understood some statistics and some mathematics in as a standard thing, especially if you go to Eastern Europe. The standard of mathematical education is quite high. The same thing in Germany and in Scandinavia. Um, so people had some foundational concepts of how logic works, how reasoning works, how mathematics works, what is evidence, what is just documentation, um, how data can be used to build up uh, uh, arguments either deductively, where you've got an idea already in place and you're trying to find evidence that supports it, but not just blindly grabbing every bit of evidence that does and ignoring the rest, or else inductively, where you don't have a theory, but you are trying to find things that add together and you're trying to figure out how they add together. And in the end, you build a theory. So those kinds of concepts, which are vital to using data uh, to form guidance for a company or for an individual, those kinds of ideas, in my experience, were much better foundationally understood in Europe. Where if I try to talk about even just this 3 minute speech I've just given, if I try to give that to an American company, they're all on their phones because I'm using words that they don't like because they've never heard them. Thank you, Debbie. Uh, if I try to give the same speech to a German or Scandinavian company, they wait until I'm done and then they very politely say, "Yeah, yeah, we all know this from grade school."
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
good point
so
about the different
I think that's
education systems. Yeah, and even I-10 is saying, I'd agree math and logic classes are a big thing in Sweden, both theoretical and experimental. And I-10 also said, not sure about the job itself, but I know in the US they have way more and specialized degree programs related to UX than Europe. Maybe it's because the US is much bigger and has more grad schools. Yeah, though a lot of those programs stink. And as John pointed out, they're still not teaching you logic. They're not necessarily teaching you critical thinking. A lot of university programs I respected changed in the last 3 to 5 years to design thinking programs, thinking they had to copy IDEO rather than human-centered design or more on the human. I mean, human factors is hopefully still human factors, but a lot of the non-human factors degrees somehow ended up design thinking ish, and obviously at that point it's more diluted than homeopathy.
nice line.
Thank you. So yeah, I guess the main difference is the pay is lower here, and I know a lot of people's minds get blown when they see some of what Americans are paid, especially in the Bay Area slash Silicon Valley, but they also don't know what our expenses are over there. You know, you can make 150, 200,000 a year and people go, "Oh my gosh, I'd be rich if I could just make that. Oh my gosh, my life would be all set." And I go, "Okay, but check out my list of expenses, you know, from my rent to my car or commuting to the gas in the car or to the cost of groceries, all the insurances I have to carry, the fact that healthcare is paid mostly out of your pocket, including the $10,000 I was supposed to pay for my gallbladder being removed in 2012. That wasn't free or included, and many Europeans are like, "What? Like you? What do you mean you have to pay for that?" So, you know, we look like we're being paid a lot, and our tax rates are lower than Europe, but that money still goes right out the window. I often wonder even how people afford to have children.
Yeah, same here. It often astounds my colleagues in other countries when I talk about my time in Silicon Valley or in the Bay Area. Um, to be completely frank and honest about it, the last 4 years or nearly 4 years that I lived there, I was paying $2,500 a month for rent,
That's
living
low.
alone. Yeah, and you know why I was paying that? Because I wasn't in the city and because
Right.
I had a commute that involved either an hour long bus ride or a bicycle ride followed by a ferry ride followed by a bicycle ride.
Where were you?
By moving outside,
That
I
sounds
was
like
in Alameda.
Marin. Okay.
Uh, no, no, much closer to San Francisco than that.
Okay.
Um, because I don't drive because pollution kills the planet. Um, so the cheapest place I could find for one person living alone, not wanting to have roommates, was 2,500 a month. I'm currently living in Aberdeen in Scotland, and if I were to pay that here, I would have the most luxurious flat on the apartment listings. I could probably have a very nice house for that expense here. But here the salary is vastly smaller than it was in the Bay Area. That's just how it is. And even though people have a hard time getting their heads around that, one thing that they can pretty quickly understand is that without public health care, expenses go through the roof. Now, you mentioned your gallbladder surgery. Um, there are other surgeries that are more common that are more expensive, and the limitations of healthcare, that's that's just horrible. Add to that the terrible public transit, meaning that you do have to have a car if you're trying to commute any kind of a reasonable distance. Um, there's many things that make it difficult and extremely expensive to live in the Bay Area, and nobody minds because of the potlatch idea, right? The idea that conspicuously burning your money in front of other people lets everyone know how rich you are. And it's a great way to show how valuable you are and how important you are. So everybody loves to do that. That was one of the regular bragging things that went on over coffee or lunch when I was working at Google and at Facebook. People love to talk about how much money they spent on things.
Ader for the win. That would be a sad face on the journey map. And I10 said, "Wow, no wonder my friend from LA says rental prices in Sweden are way low, even though it's extremely high for an average Swede." Yeah, it's all relative. Obviously, if you're making X and your rent is a certain percent of X, then stuff feels all out of proportion. But then in parts of America, on top of your rent being such a big chunk of stuff, especially your post tax. Remember, when someone says they make 200,000 a year, that's before taxes come out. Taxes might be a third ish of that. And so maybe they end up with X amount in their pocket. Okay, that still sounds like a lot of money. When I was last living in the Bay Area, I was also outside of the city, but we were in Daly City, so on the
Mm,
peninsula. And
right.
so we moved into the fog bank because you could get a decently priced rental where it was foggy most of the time. And I was living with my then boyfriend, and the our rent was 3,600 a month to rent a single house. I think he's still in that house with his new girlfriend, new and improved, and I think they're paying 4,000 a month. Um, and eh, that's that's a lot. Um,
Mhm.
that's a lot. So yeah,
That is.
Ana Lucia
But
says Americans are coming to Portugal and gladly paying 1,500 or 2,000 euros for rent. That would be crazy for any regular Portuguese person. I mean, yeah, our property taxes here for about a half acre of land with some buildings on it is under 4,000 euros a year.
yeah, yeah, I lived in Portugal for a while, though I wasn't one of those horrible expats, I hope. Um, Andalusia, I apologize if I was one, but I don't think so. I worked for a Portuguese company and uh, dealt with international clients as well as Portuguese clients. It was an interesting job. That was my last job there. Before that, I worked at a university there in Lisboa. But yeah, one of the reasons I'm not in Portugal right now is because of all of the Californians I met who were describing the neighborhoods that I used to love in Lisbon as being where they hang out. And I don't want to hang out with those people. I don't want to see what they've replaced the neighborhoods with. I don't want to see how they've changed the buildings and caused shops to close and other houses to raise rent, so families had to move. I don't want to see any of that. I don't advocate action against tourists. I think it's a shame that people feel they have to do that, as is going on right now across Europe. But I certainly understand the sentiment behind it. And I understand similar sentiment against these foreign workers who come in making 100 times what anybody local makes and feeling that it's okay to just go on living their lifestyle instead of trying to become encultured.
Yeah, a lot we could talk about here, but Aitan had two questions for you, so I want to move on to those, but we'll just say
Great.
it's complicated.
It's complicated. Good answer.
Yeah, Melanie says they're all coming to Texas and doing the same thing. Housing costs have gone through the roof the past few years.
Yeah.
Okay, so Aitan's question for you was, how do you measure the success and impact of your work?
Oh, I have two very simple metrics I use. And this is a secret, so I'm sharing it with you guys. Feel free to spread it around. The cat will now be out of the bag. But I have two simple metrics I use. The first is the most recalcitrant person on the team of stakeholders. The person who absolutely was against the project being done, was against my being brought in, the person who disagreed with every single decision anyone had made and refused to speak up during meetings but just grunted. When they come over and shake my hand and thank me for teaching them something, which pretty much always happens, then I feel like, okay, that's been a success. The other metric that I have is the in house UX team, the folks who failed to solve the problem, sometimes for 2 or 3 years before I was brought in. If they hate me with a raging white hot vehemence, then I know I've done a good job. Good graphic. Good graphic.
By the way, speaking of graphics, I hope this person won't mind me doing this, but can we just take a moment and celebrate and congratulate Ader for getting a job after an
Hey,
unfortunate period of time without a job in which I worried about him a lot. I'm very excited to say he got a new job and even if it's kind of stinky, I hope he has a job and gets money. So, there you
you're
go.
here.
Oh, Aitan said, how am I supposed to put these metrics on my resume?
Oh no, those are metrics in your heart. If you want to have metrics you put on your resume, it's quite simple. You use the same metrics that they wanted to use to measure the success of the project. Then you can define that inside the scope of the project and inside the results of the project. So if they were looking to increase revenue on a specific product, if they were looking to reduce accidents, reduce errors, if they wanted to reduce a bounce rate or increase uh, uh, the amount being spent per shopping cart or anything like that, whatever were their metrics, whatever success you got, you can report in the metrics that they use. They might not want you using the exact numbers, but you can use general figures.
Yeah, sometimes it's a percentage, like raised something X percent, but you can't say what it was before, what it was after, or a specific revenue
Right.
number. So you have to use those relative numbers or percentages versus an exact revenue number or things like, or an exact number of customers. So yeah, I
Yeah.
like both. I like both sets of metrics. Yeah, I haven't thought about the first set as a metric, but I will say very often when I start a job, I'm like, all right, who's going to be the narcissist that tries to sabotage me? You know, how long will it take
Mhm.
for me to meet this person? How long will it take for them to try to sabotage me? Um, and yeah, probably New Record was my last job. I think someone went after me my third week there.
Wow. Wow. I'm sorry.
No, to me it's fine. Though I will say, unfortunately, HR and others dropped the ball, so it never got resolved. But luckily, I was able to get that person out of my way. So they are still
Good.
there. I am not, but it's I'm not. I'm usually used to somebody who feels threatened by me and decides to be aggressive about it.
Right. Yeah, it's funny how often that happens. I've noticed that it happens much more with women than with men.
Surprise.
I get some of it because
Really?
I'm old, but yes, imagine that. If you'd like, I could explain to you the inherent sexism of the system.
Wait, John, can you please tell me why nobody takes me seriously?
Well, now, allow me
Young
to
lady.
explain.
Yeah.
Young lady,
Smile more, please,
there's
madam. Control your shrillness.
be happy with the reduced percentage of the man's salary paid to you.
Oh, it hurts. It's all real. The nightmare is real.
Yes. Yes. Recently, talking with some folks in computing education in the UK and specifically in Scotland, I heard a number of people say how we have to increase the number of women coming through computing programs. And they were wondering about how, trying to deal with the long-term problem of how do we increase this number? What do we do? How can we broaden our appeal? And my suggestion to the group, and it wasn't well received, was to stop trying to appeal to men. Just stop entirely. Start going into junior high school classes and then high school classes on a regular basis and trying 100% to appeal to women. Um, yeah, very, very unpopular idea. And I imagine it's the kind of thing that would get a few of those incel groups really interested in where I live. Um, but I think it's a completely reasonable strategy. Uh, People who really want to be in computing fields of any sort, whether it's gaming or cybersecurity or whatever it is, people who really want to do that will do that regardless of the attempts to get people interested. And people who don't know that they would enjoy the field, let's just aim at women for 10 years. I think it'd be a great thing. 40
Yeah.
years from now, that would have an impact on the management of these teams where women get treated like third or fourth class citizens.
Oh,
But
Ana
it will
Lucia
take another
says
generation.
STEM careers in Portugal are appealing to women. We have a ratio of almost 50-50.
Very nice. Go 25% more and I'll be happier. But 50-50
Hi,
is very
Kayleen.
nice. That's excellent.
Kayleen, if you have any questions, let us know. We've got, I think, one more from I-10, and then we're low on questions. But yeah, the mansplaining continues. Just spend an hour on LinkedIn and thrill to the adventures. All right, I-10's got another question. So let me ask her previous question. While I still have this on my clipboard, please hold. Okay, this one was about recommended books. And mostly aimed
Mhm.
at you, John, because everyone knows I'm illiterate. 3 favorite and most helpful UX research and design books. Or I guess everyone knows what I'll say.
Well, number one, I would recommend Debbie's book.
Oh,
Debbie, would you
stop
please
that.
plug it? No, Simple Truth. Simple Truth. Great book, well written,
Thank you.
clearly explains a whole lot of stuff that other people talk about either not at all or in the wrong way. So that would be my first explanation,
Thank you.
or my first offer. Do you want to just plug the book directly right now so that everybody has that in the same soundbite?
It's the Customers Know You Suck book, and thank you. It's available in fine stores everywhere. No, it's available cxcc.to/CKYS.
Okay. So, yeah, that's an excellent book. I have, a few dozen books on my shelf here just out of reach. But yeah, for the most part, I find that a lot of books have been written by people who are trying to generate money. And their company has backed them in doing something, or their university has backed them in doing something, or their sister in law in the publishing industry has backed them in doing something. Somebody has backed them, and they've put out a book based on a couple of great ideas. Um, and sometimes not even that. I think if you want a really good book on research, read a book on statistics. and any good book on statistics. If you want a really good book on qualitative methodology, read about qualitative design. Um, Bill Buxton, am I getting the name right? Yes, that's right. Bill Buxton, right, from Toronto. Uh, Old colleague of mine, has a book called Sketching the User Experience. I think that's what it's called. Now, somebody should fact check that because I'm probably wrong. But he has an introduction to the whole idea in one book, and then he has a sketchbook to help you do the work. And these are wonderful books. Um, yeah, he's a fantastic genius, an artist and a mathematician. In some ways, a modern day Leonardo. And I strongly recommend checking out his website and anything that he has written in the past or is currently writing. Um, I say that knowing that the last time we talked, he was recovering from a stroke,
Hmm.
and that was about a decade ago. So I don't know how he is now. Um, there are lots of people who are doing good work, but please don't fall into the trap of reading one book and deciding that's your Bible. Read about things outside of it. If you want to work with designers and do research on design, then learn the theory of Veniga Ababessa, um, the idea that it's less but it's better, which is the foundational design principle of, I'm not going to remember his name, the foundational design principle of one of the great designers of the 1950s on. And his work should be informing what's going on in the web. If you want to be able to evaluate UX meaningfully, um, pick up a book by Saskia Baker et al. She and Doris Hausen and Ted Selker edited a book called Peripheral Interaction. And they neatly describe the real problems of designing uh, for tools that will use while people are doing other things. I've got a chapter in the book myself, but the other chapters are probably more informative for you. Um, yeah. Off the top of my head, that's what I'd say. There's fantastic research out there about just how dangerous phones are, just how dangerous smartphones are, especially for young people. And if you don't know about that, please find out about it. Not from fearmongers, but from people who've really done the statistical work, and there's great work done about that. Um, if you can look into that, then you'll be better informed to make arguments for why certain things should or shouldn't be done with graphic user interfaces.
All right. Thank you for those. As for me, some of you know I don't like to read a lot of UX books. Some of them are too depressing, and some of them I just haven't made time for. So I'm just going to go with whatever John said. Before we get to Melanie's question, or do I have, who am I up to? Hold on. Oh yeah, Itan asked another question. Let me get that up there. And then we'll get Melanie's question up there. Aitan says, last question, I promise. We don't believe you. What methods have you found effective to get feedback from users who are B2B clients?
Shall I jump in?
Oh, yeah, you first, always.
Not always, no. Um, Boy, the methods of getting people to provide you with information that I prefer are always the same. Always the same. Real human conversation, absolutely faked by you. And that sounds horrible, but what I mean is if you do a questionnaire, people are going to try to answer the questions you've asked. And who knows whether or not you're asking the right questions in the right way, how much time they're going to take, and whether or not you'd get different answers if you gave them the same questionnaire an hour later. The answer is that often you would. Um, so having an interaction with people where you're face to face and talking with them is really good. But you have to construct an environment in there. You have to deliberately create an environment in which you quickly convince them that you honestly care about their opinions, that you honestly want to hear their thoughts and their beliefs and their feelings. and that it's okay if they contradict themselves, and it's okay if they change their mind. And none of that will shape the deep respect you have for them as the generators of these ideas. If you can get that across, and I teach that methodology, if you can get that across to them in the first few minutes of an interview, usually I try to do it in the preamble before the real session starts. That's sort of the metacognitive framework that I apply in order to create an environment in which I'll have rich data coming towards me. If you can do that, then you'll get real, sincere information from everybody who thinks that there are shortcuts to collecting data. They're getting shortcut data, and you shouldn't buy into that. So it doesn't matter to me if it's a B2B client or otherwise. The only thing that that does is it creates very specific types of barriers for honesty. So you have to find a way of working around those barriers. Maybe it's anonymizing the data. Maybe it's meeting them off site. Maybe it's arranging a day where a number of people are being met and their bosses don't have to know what time who was interviewed or something like that. Um, and I mean, interview the bosses too. If you can, interview the entire structure of the company that's involved in defining what this problem is. So that then you can say, here, hey, look, there's a miscommunication here. The engineers are saying the O-rings are fragile if it freezes overnight. And the managers are saying the O-rings are fine because they read a tech report from 2 years ago. And that's how you stop a space shuttle from exploding, right? Is by interviewing every level of the management team and every
So
level of the work team.
I'm going to throw I-10's follow-up comment at you, and then I'm going to walk away from the computer for a minute. Just I have something to address off camera. So I won't hear your answer, but then I'll come back and give my own answer, and they may or may not match. But yeah, very quickly, I-10's follow-up that she put in the comments said, I'm a bit skeptical about talking to a 50-year-old white man who's a CEO about his feelings as a 28-year-old female with pink hair. And John, go.
All right. ITAN, you should be skeptical about that. The honest truth is that nobody wants to know the feelings of an old white CEO. I don't want to know their feelings. You shouldn't care about their feelings, except in that it will help you define what kind of information they are receiving compared to what kind of information they're acting on. And that is a dangerous thing for a woman to present to a man, for a man to present to a man, for a young person to present to an old person, for an old person to present to a young person. The demographics might make it more difficult for you to be taken seriously when you present that, but good solid data will serve you very well. Um, the reason that I interview all through the structure of the company as much as they'll let me is not so that I can get a set of points this person wants to tell me. That's not the important part. It's so that I can build a structure that says, here is your mental map of what is going on. And that is based on information you've gotten from these subordinates. But here is their mental map of what's going on. Can you see the dissociation? And they're reporting what came to them from help services. And here's their mental map of what's going on. And they're reporting what came to them from these clients who they put me in touch with, and I've interviewed them, and here are their mental maps, and their mental maps all match up. And what help services reported upwards matches up. And what your subordinate said to you matches up. But you're translating it as being this. Now, do you really want to investigate this, or do you want to investigate what these people were reporting as a problem? So it's not the kind of thing that makes CEOs happy. But one of the joys of being an old man as a consultant is that I don't tend to give a damn if I'm making CEOs happy. If they hire me to solve a problem, I solve the problem. If they hire me to find out what a problem is or what the problem is, then I find out what the problem is. Um, the advice I give in general, unless you ask for it specifically, is not going to be a recipe of how to maintain a job in a corporate situation, because that's not what I do.
The Change Agent Club over here. That answer should be a clip, says Kayleen. Feel free to clip it on YouTube. clip it, short it, send it out. What I want to add, not having known how John's answer started, is my thought is so Aitan, you're 28, you're female, you got the job. Someone trusts you to do this job. And there's no reason why you can't be put in front of a CEO of any age, of any gender, and have a conversation with them about something that's important to their company, your company, both. Um, you got the job. So don't see yourself as, well, I'm just a young woman with wacky hair. If that's how you see yourself, that's the energy you're going to show up with. And the CEO is going to be thinking, why am I talking to this kid with this wacky hair? Show up with your professional energy. Who cares if you have pink hair, nose ring, tattoo, whatever it is? These things are not the as stigmatized as they used to be. If your pink hair bothers you, change it. Don't, females probably staying and 28's going to be there for a while. But you got the job. There's no reason why you should see it that way. I'm 52, and I wouldn't be like, why is this kid interviewing me? I would say, this is the researcher. This is the professional researcher this company hired. Aitan said, I have a nose ring as well. I know, we've seen you on the video calls. But who cares? It's a giant who cares. Have you seen my earrings lately? Has anybody noticed that I have giant body jewelry sticking out of my head? I mean, who cares? I could hide it. I could try to do my hair over it. If I felt that were a problem. My passport has jet black hair. I used to dye my hair before I said, okay, let's let at least the front of it grow in its real color. The back's not the real color. The front is the real color. And so I've made decisions about my appearance as to whether or not I want to be funky or not funky or show my age or not show my age. And so, but the bottom line is you got the job and show up with the energy of the person who got the job and deserves the job and is coming to do a professional interview for work. And that's it. So, don't boil yourself down to a number and a gender and the color of your hair. I know I don't think of you that way. The end.
If it helps at all,
Go ahead.
if it helps, if it helps at all, um, it is patently difficult to talk to CEOs, especially some. Some are wonderful and easy to talk with, and they mean it and they're sincere. Some are wonderful and easy to talk with, and they're just waiting for the chance to get you out of the room so they can make fun of you behind your back. And some are vituperous and evil and controlling and backstabbing. And there's all kinds of people who are CEOs. Generally, it tends towards certain types more than others, the folks who want to be in that position. But there are all kinds, and I've known some wonderful human beings who are CEOs. The point is, evil or good, chaotic or neutral, lawful or not, these people, as Debbie was implying, wanted a scientist on their team, and they hired you to be that scientist. So be that scientist. They hired you with all of the features that you described. They didn't hire you and then you magically transformed. As far as I know, maybe you did, in which case, cool, well done. But they hired you being who you are. And what you should do is be who you are. And if you're worried at all, and I understand the worry, I really do. I've been so discriminated against because I've been on the planet longer than other people. I totally get it. I've been discriminated against for my ability to do the work that I'm an expert in because of my age. Um, so when people give you the impression that they'll discriminate against you, go in really prepared. Take some deep breaths. Be as calm as you can. Smile as often as you can because they hate it when you smile. People who support you love it when you smile. People who don't want to support you hate it when you smile. So smile and back everything up. When people doubt something that you're saying, say, if you need me to, I can explain it to you in another way, but this is just an accepted fact. This is the right statistical method. That is the wrong statistical method. These numbers here tell us one thing. You can all have opinions, but the numbers tell us one thing. And here is what the numbers tell us. If you need me to, I can explain that to you. I understand not everyone's comfortable in stats class. I'm happy to walk you through the process, right? But be the professional, as Debbie is saying. Be the person they hired you to be. And if you have trouble doing that, let me know. Let Debbie know. We'll show up and hold the guy's elbows while you kick him.
No, that went so well until the
Oh,
end.
sorry. Sorry.
All right, at least we've got some comedy here today. All right, our final question for today will be from everyone's cousin Melanie. And Melanie says, oops, I already pasted this in. I'm wasting my own time. Here we go. Aitan says I do kickboxing. Okay. General question for John, if he hasn't already talked about it. How are you liking Scotland so far? Obviously, a little bit of a leading question there, but how do you like Scotland so far?
I'm loving Scotland. Thank you for asking. Scotland has been very, very kind to me. Um, I got here in the process of recovering from a car accident that happened to me in California. I've been learning how to walk and use my hands again. And it's been a long road. It's been almost 4 years now. And for the first year of that, I was working for a company in California that didn't want to give me time off to see the doctor or do therapy.
Jeez. Sorry, that gong means our time's
Yeah.
almost up. Has nothing to do with your
Ah,
story.
okay.
It's
That's too bad
automated. I
because the
didn't do
timing was
that.
pretty good.
So sorry.
um, so, so Scotland has been lovely. It's also been a chance to teach again. I've been teaching undergraduate classes, which I haven't done in a couple of decades. It's been about 20 years since I taught undergraduates on a regular basis. So that's been lovely. I'm working with some very clever grad students as well. And the environment here is beautiful. Now, on top of all of that, in my spare time, I used to play guitar and sing in pubs. I did it in Canada, I did it in the US, in San Francisco, and I've really taken to doing it here as well. And the music community in Aberdeen is the best music community I have found in any city in the world. There is live music going on 7 nights a week, and chances for people who are trying to make a career at least 5 nights a week. So it's been just brilliant that way. I've met a lot of wonderful people at work, and I've met a lot of wonderful people in the music industry.
And I hope
Thank
you'll
you
put
for
together a nice acoustic guitar version of Grim Grinning Ghosts with your best Thurl Ravenscroft voice.
asking. I'll do my best.
Foolish mortals. I don't know if you know do you know the song I'm talking about?
I do, yes. I know it from Cory Doctorow referring to it often back in the days that he was involved with Boing Boing.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you would have the frame of reference for Grim Grinning Ghosts, which is, for everybody else, it is the theme
Haunted
song and
Mansion.
song played throughout in Disney's Haunted Mansion ride.
Yeah, yeah.
So that, go ahead.
As we have discussed before, I'm not the biggest fan of Disney, but I understand that you are, and I know a lot of good and great people who are fans of Disney. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Again, I'm Parks and Resorts. You know, not everything they do has been the right thing, but I do enjoy Parks and Resorts and their approach to CX and UX within.
yes, yeah. Their Imagineering team has got to be one of the most creative and successful groups, and most listened to groups ever developed for a research and development group in the history of the world, as far as I know. It, it would be a dream job to work there. All of you
Yes.
UXers who are saying, "Hey, there's no work in the industry," maybe look over there. Those are some incredible people doing incredible work.
And it's funny. I always thought it would be a dream job, and I didn't go after it because they wanted you to live in Glendale, you know, outside of Los Angeles. And I thought, like, me in Los Angeles, I'll never survive. I'm so not LA. It'll kill me. And so I didn't do it. And now it's like, oh, what if? You know, would I even have been
But
accepted? You for sure, you know, you would certainly be an Imagineer. I can only dream of being accepted.
I don't know. I appreciate that very high compliment, but I was turned down for the space program in Canada, so maybe I wouldn't have been accepted then. Yeah, I've been turned down for a couple of good jobs, two or three, 7 or 8, 100, 200.
It hurts. So I know that you and we're out of time. I know you and I haven't made any plans yet, but I've heard a rumor directly from you that you're going to start joining us on a regular basis, perhaps?
I certainly will. Yes, it'd be very nice to be back with you and with the community. I've missed you guys, and I'd love to come back on a regular basis.
Super.
Start the chat all flowing again.
Yeah, I guess keep me posted on what your teaching schedule is and where we can fit this in, and we'll make it happen. And so everybody, keep your eyes posted for John coming back in the fall once we know what his teaching schedule looks like. And I'll still be here every Tuesday, so send the questions in. John, I said a regular basis. Tuesdays just got better. Oh,
Thank
and
you.
actually, I might move
If
them
I may,
later in the day. I might try to move them to 7 p.m. your time, John, just to try to catch more of America a little bit later in the day.
okay, if we do that, that would be a problem for me.
Oh,
Six
okay.
thirty, I could manage.
S-
7 is getting tight. I have an open mic I play at every week that starts at 8:30 my time, and
Oh,
I have
okay.
to
On
go. I'd have to
Tuesdays.
travel on Tuesdays.
Wow. Okay. Send video. All right. So you and I will talk about it. We'll figure it out. Everybody, if you're in our online community, watch the live events channel in our Slack, live events channel in our Discord. Events calendar linked from dcx.to. Whatever it is, I'm going to get it in there and you will know when John will be back and dates and times. So just make sure you are subscribed. John, any final words for our fans tonight?
Well, I do want to make a little plug. I'm co-host of a podcast out of the Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen called SOC Talk, SOC School of Computing, SOC Talk, and you can
Okay.
find it on every platform. It's a filmmaker and lecturer in computing, Jamie Sundance, and myself, and we talk about all kinds of technological and sociological and societal issues. So if you're interested at all, please check it out. Um, and folks, I was absolutely sincere with what I said a few minutes ago. I've missed you guys. I've missed this community,
Oh,
and I'm
thank you.
delighted to be back.
I think that was SOC Talk. Did I spell that
Yes,
correctly? SOC Talk. I think you're about to get 10 subscribers immediately to that podcast. And of
great.
course, Kayleen wants to hear you narrating audiobooks. I still don't know why you're not doing ASMR videos on YouTube.
The folks
You
at
could do that.
YouTube who I worked with last said that I should be doing that. And the good news is, I hope to start in the fall a new branch of my YouTube channel where I
Nice.
will be reading poetry and other things with the pure intent of putting people to sleep.
Now, again, that's like a double-edged sword there. Like, we don't think of you as someone who puts us to sleep, but you do have a relaxing voice.
Thank you.
I-10 says she can't find the podcast.
Hmm. No K in sock. Maybe
Yeah,
that helps.
I don't know.
Uh,
SOC talk.
yes, I don't know if it's one word or two words in your search engine,
Okay.
but what I can do is I'll send Debbie, I'll send you a link, and then you can post it on your channels.
Yep, I'll
If I
put
were
it in
more
the
prepared, I
YouTube
would have sent that to you
description.
before we talked today.
I'll send it out to the community.
Great.
So we'll make sure we spread the word on the podcast. And have a great open mic night tonight. Sorry to keep you a little bit late. And we'll see you very soon.
All right, looking forward to it.
Thanks
Take care,
again.
everybody. I'm sorry I can't read your comments, but I'll read them when I watch the video.
Okay, thanks. I read them out loud. Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.